He played 40,000 hands online. He lost almost none of them. Not because he was the best poker player in the world, not because he had an unbeatable system, but because, as investigators would later confirm, he could see every card on the table, his opponent's cards. Cards that, according to the platform, were completely hidden. What you're about to find out is not a theory. It's documented. Regulators confirmed it. The evidence came from inside the system itself. But here's the part that doesn't get discussed enough. He wasn't alone. And the people who finally exposed it weren't professional investigators, journalists, or law enforcement. They were poker players sitting at their computers late at night who noticed that one account's decisions didn't make mathematical sense. They were right, and what they found underneath that pattern changed online gambling permanently. Before we get to who did it, we need to understand how it was even possible. Every hand of online poker begins with a simple promise. The server deals your cards. You see them, no one else does. That promise is not a feature. It is the entire game. Without it, poker doesn't exist. It becomes a performance where one participant already knows the ending. To keep that promise, online platforms build what's called an access control layer. Your cards travel from the server to your screen and nowhere else. Your opponents receive their own cards through separate, isolated channels. At no point during an active hand does any single user account see the full picture. Except at the server level, everything exists simultaneously. Every card, every hand, every player's hidden information, all of it is visible, in real time, to anyone with the right level of access. The security of the game depended entirely on one assumption: that no one with that level of access would use it during a live hand. Absolute Poker and Ultimate Bet were both licensed by the Kanawake Gaming Commission, a regulatory body based in a Mohawk territory in Canada. The license meant the platforms were permitted to operate. It did not mean the commission monitored individual hands in real time. It could not. The integrity of every single hand depended on internal controls. Controls that, it turned out, had a gap. His name online was Patripper. By September 2007, he had run up win rates that professional players, people who had spent years building mathematical models for elite performance, said were not possible, not improbable, not unlikely, not possible. A player named Crazy Marco sat across from Patripper in a high-stakes tournament. He lost. He pulled his hand histories, ran the numbers, and posted his analysis on 2+2, one of the largest poker forums on the internet. The post didn't accuse anyone of cheating. It asked a question: can someone explain how this win rate is mathematically achievable? Other players pulled their own histories. Someone ran an independent statistical analysis. The deviation from expected variance wasn't close to the edge of normal ranges. It was so far outside them that the modelers had to check their own calculations. Then a player named Todd Whittalis noticed something beyond the winrate.timing.in in spots where a professional player would take 30, 40, or 60 seconds to think through a complex decision. Patripper acted in 2 or 3. Not because the decisions were simple. Because, for Patripper, apparently, they weren't decisions at all. You don't deliberate when you already know. Absolute Poker's initial response was institutional. The system is functioning correctly. No comment on specific accounts. The players kept going. Then something happened that nobody planned for. A dataset is left in the system. No one has ever confirmed exactly how. Some accounts describe it as an administrative error, a file attached to the wrong email during a support dispute. Others suggest it was deliberate, someone inside the company who had seen what was happening and wanted it exposed. No definitive explanation has ever been confirmed. What is confirmed is what the file contained. It was a hand history, but not a normal one. Standard hand histories show each player their own cards and reveal opponents' cards only after the hand concludes. This file showed everything. Every player's hole cards, during every hand, in real time, are exactly the view from inside the server. Analysts cross-referenced it with the hands they'd already flagged. The alignment was exact. Every decision PoTripper had made that seemed inexplicable, every fold against hidden strength, every aggressive bet into hidden weakness corresponded, hand for hand, to what the file showed. It wasn't a hot streak. It wasn't instinct. It was a vision. Within days, the question on 2 + 2 shifted from, is something wrong, to something much colder. Who inside this company could see every card at every table in real time while the game was running? In any centralized digital platform, certain administrative accounts exist above the user layer. They troubleshoot crashes. They audit accounts. They monitor performance. In a banking system, they might access your transaction logs. In an email provider, they might recover deleted messages. In a healthcare database, they hold records of your most private information. In an online poker platform, they can see your cards. This is not a flaw. It is a functional requirement. Someone has to be able to verify that the dealing algorithm is working correctly. Someone has to be able to investigate disputes. That access exists because, without it, the platform cannot operate. The problem is not the existence of the access. The problem is what happens when the wrong person uses it. Investigators and later analysis identified what came to be called superuser accounts, administrative credentials that had been used during live hands to observe opponents' hole cards in real time. With that capability, the game becomes something different entirely. A bluff has no power against someone who can see your face. An aggressive bet into a weak hand is not a risk. It's a guarantee. You don't estimate probabilities. You observe outcomes before they happen and act accordingly. In the Ultimate Bet investigation, the Kanawake Gaming Commission eventually identified Russ Hamilton, a former World Series of Poker main event champion and Ultimate Bet insider, as involved in exploiting these privileges. The scale of what was taken is still disputed. Some estimates place the total extracted across both platforms in the tens of millions of dollars, taken not through deception at the table, through access to the architecture underneath it. Here is the thing about superuser fraud that doesn't appear in regulatory reports. The players who lost to these accounts didn't know why they lost. Some of them were professional people who reviewed their own decisions obsessively, who questioned every fold, who rebuilt their strategies after bad sessions. They looked at their losses against these accounts and concluded they had made mistakes. They adjusted. They worked harder. They were not making mistakes. Others were recreational players, people who played for 2 hours on a Friday night, who had deposited $400 and thought of it as entertainment money. They folded correctly. They got their money right. The math was on their side. It didn't matter. None of them had any way to know. The game looked like poker. The interface was identical. The hand histories were normal. There was nothing visible at the table level that indicated the table had been compromised at the level beneath. This is the mechanism that makes this specific fraud so hard to process. It wasn't a scam anyone could have detected by playing better. It wasn't a system anyone could have beaten by being smarter. The game that appeared on their screens was not the game that was actually running. They were paying for an experience that didn't exist. The Kanawake Gaming Commission opened formal investigations into both platforms after the file became public. Its conclusions confirmed unauthorized access had occurred. Restitution programs were implemented. Players received partial compensation based on identified losses, though the total affected is almost certainly larger than what was tracked. Fines were levied. The platforms eventually shut down, accelerated by the broader federal crackdown on online poker in the United States in 2011, an event that swept away much of the industry regardless. Criminal prosecutions did not widely follow. The offshore structure of the companies made the jurisdiction complicated. Hamilton was never criminally charged in the United States for his role at Ultimate Bet. He lost his World Series of Poker bracelet. That was the consequence. What the investigation also revealed was a structural truth that had nothing to do with poker specifically. The system did not detect the fraud. Players detected the fraud from outside the system, using publicly available hand histories and their own statistical analysis. Regulators responded only after players had already proven what was happening. The oversight was entirely reactive. The monitoring that was supposed to prevent this from occurring did not exist in a form that could catch it. These cases are sometimes framed as a poker scandal. They are not really a poker scandal. They are a demonstration of what happens inside any system, where one party holds complete information, another party holds none, and the only thing standing between them is internal self-regulation. The players sitting at those tables believed something fundamental, that the invisible architecture underneath the game was treating them the same way it treated everyone else, that the randomness was real, that the hidden information was actually hidden. They were wrong, and they had no mechanism to know they were wrong until other players, people with no formal authority, no access to internal systems, no regulatory power, built the case from the outside, using nothing but pattern recognition and the willingness to believe that math doesn't lie. The platforms are gone. The accounts are deactivated. The gap in the architecture that they exploited, the gap between what a system promises its users and what it actually delivers, is not unique to poker, and it did not close when Ultimate Bet went offline. Every system built on hidden information and delegated trust contains this gap. Most of the time, no one looks.